So here we are driving down to Sderot on the Gaza border. Sderot is part of Israel, and we will soon be there. However, as we travel down, I can remember John Lennon once famously singing the song that we all know. Imagine there's no heaven, it's easy if you try. No hell below us, and above us only sky. Imagine there's no countries, it isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Well, personally, I wouldn't want to imagine that there's no heaven, as it would mean that there's no eternity with God, which in turn would mean life is pretty pointless. However, for a moment, as we're travelling down, imagine this. Imagine a London where threats of bombs hang over every city and every building. Imagine Birmingham, where the daily life is punctuated by missiles raining down indiscriminately on schools and homes and parks and gardens. Imagine Newcastle or Edinburgh, where the difference between crossing the road or not could be the difference between saving your life or not, as incoming rockets fall from the sky. Imagine if Cardiff was controlled by Islamic terrorists who continually bombed Bristol, yet the EU and the world's politicians urged England not to respond, or condemned the English government when they did.
Tzeva Adom. Tzeva Adom. Tzeva Adom.
Sderot, an Israeli city, just 3 kilometres from the Gaza border, is an amazing place. I've been here many times in the past and experienced Tzeva Adom, the missile colour red alert, and actually seen rockets fly over my head. But this time, as every time I go there, was different. This time, as the very large red sun dipped on the horizon and darkness descended quickly, we realised once again that though the peace that we experienced in this beautiful Israel town, it would soon be shattered. I can remember when I visited Sderot in 2008 and then again in 2011 and 2013. Each experience was different and yet very troubling. I was struck by the concrete bomb shelters around every bus station, the beautiful city's caterpillars, which are actually bomb shelters, and the air of impending doom that hung over the city like a cloud. Even though the hot sun beat down upon us with clear blue skies, I was amazed to discover that this was a beautiful, quiet, safe town before Israel were forced to pull out of Gaza in 2005, all in the name of peace. Before Hamas took control of Gaza, children could play in safety on the streets in Sderot. Back in 2011, the progress had been a new school that was built with a bomb-resistant roof. I went back in 2013, and again this recent time, and my thoughts still remain. If that's the only progress, it's not too encouraging. Because of its geographic location, it has been a target of Hamas and other terrorist Arab groups for many, many times. Mayan Hendler lives just 2 kilometres from the Gaza Strip in Israel, and she describes her experience. She states, "It's a quiet place. The education is excellent. The kids can run around freely. Everything is perfect." And then the strikes begin. Suddenly on a quiet morning, without any warning, you hear Tzeva Adom, Tzeva Adom. The whole body just tenses up into a state it's familiar with, a familiar feeling that comes back. Then you run to the bomb shelters, and I was actually outside with my youngest baby, my third child. We ran to the shelter. My other children, the older ones, were still inside the house with my husband. From that moment, everything completely changed. Every little sound, my kids were asking, "Mummy, what was that? Mummy, what was that?" I wish, I'm so full of hope that both sides will just be able to live in peace and quiet. Since the disengagement from Gaza in 2005, all in the name of peace, thousands upon thousands of Kassam rockets have been fired at Sderot from Gaza, from the terrorist groups Hamas and other groups. I can remember the last time I was there with the project coordinator of CFI Jerusalem, that we studied once again the pile of Kassam missiles, a selection that's kept in the Sderot police station yard, that have been fired upon the town. And it's clearly brought home the fact that these are not the fireworks that the Western media portrayed them to be. Each Kassam is marked, where it fell, the date and the distance it travelled. Each Kassam rocket has a different colour attached too, depending on who fired it. The Jewish people living in Sderot are a mixture of backgrounds, but their fears and concerns are one and the same. The constant threat of terrorist rockets and the incredible trauma it brings to every family there. There is not one resident who does not have some issue with trauma due to Tzeva Adom, the red alert siren ringing out. We had no sooner left the city of Sderot and were returning back to Jerusalem when rockets from Gaza began to rain down yet again. The Gaza Islamic terrorists fired over 400 rockets at civilians in Israel, targeting 110 plus cities, towns and communities across Israel. These included Sderot, but also Tel Aviv, Holon and many other Israel areas. Imagine if this was your country and the town that you lived in. Imagine if you only had 15 seconds to run for shelter. What would you do if you were an elderly person? What would you do in a car? What would you do if you were sat on a bus? What would you do if you were on your way to a wedding? What would you do if you were doing your shopping? At one point, the Israeli traffic cameras captured the moment when a Hamas rocket attack on Israel directly hit a road near Gan Yavneh. Miraculously, we had used this section of the motorway only a few hours earlier. Thankfully, no one was hurt. But if this was your life, if this was your place of you call home, if this was your city, how would you respond? How would you feel? In Psalm 143, verses 9 and 11, we read, "Deliver me, O Lord, from my enemies. In you I take shelter. Revive me, O Lord, for your name's sake. For your righteousness' sake, bring my soul out of trouble. Israeli civilians have suffered so much trouble. Sleepless nights, physical injuries, depression, and severe anxiety. And the children suffer many things, including sleeping disorders, nightmares, anxiety, and having learning difficulties in schools. We need to be the hands and the heart of the Lord God. But we need you to help
People
us.
of Israel really have gone through a tremendous difficult time because of ongoing terror attack. It is said about 70-80% of civilians have to take antidepressant medicine so they can function daily. They say, you don't know me, but you come to help us and love us. We really, really very touched.
As I was reminded just recently by our projects coordinator from the Jerusalem office of CFI, she said, "Thank you for your support for projects Communities Under Attack. Our work would not be possible without the help of supporters like you. And for sure, we could not do this work without your support. So please do continue to help us and visit www.cfi.org.uk and follow the link at the end of this film."